America's Army, first of all, remember, was made before the Iraq War. It was a time when the Army was having trouble recruiting. And what they wanted to do, I don't think they wanted it to be just a recruiting device. They wanted it to brand the Army. They wanted to say to people, look, a modern Army is high tech and collaborative. You got to be in a team, you got to be a team player, and you got to use pretty sophisticated technology. And they wanted to get that across. And games are very good to let the world know what your world looks like. So if I want you to know how does the world look to me, one way to do that is put you in it. And the Army did that. And we're going to put you in this modern world. Whether or not you approve of using games to teach people to be soldiers, there is a deeper issue with the Army game. I once heard one of the colonels who was involved in America's Army say to a group of educators, one of the reasons we teach through video games is some of the kids we've got are kids you failed with, right? And if we taught them the way you do, with a bunch of lectures and writing on boards, this time they get killed, right? Because it has to work. The learning has to work this time, or they're going to get killed. So we have to do it differently. In fact, America's Army starts with a parody of flip charts and lectures. But the other thing he said is, teaching people this way, where they're in a problem-solving situation and they have to know what the world's like and they got to solve these problems collaboratively, is a good way to teach a lot of stuff, not just how to be a soldier. And you educators should be embarrassed that the Army did it first. And they've learned a lot about how to teach through games. So one thing they've learned is that a game by itself doesn't work. You have to have what they call after-action reviews. People have to be able to get out of the game, talk about their strategy, compare strategies, and think about it. Then when you do that, the game does work. So they've taught us some important principles. But the key thing they've taught us, if we don't like it, we better do it ourselves and do it better. When you use the game to recruit and the player doesn't know or the family doesn't know it's a recruiting device, then that bothers me. Right, I think there's a lack of transparency there, and I know in the beginning some of the kids that we followed played America's Army. They were extremely good at it right in the get-go, and they got notices from the Army. Look, would it offend you if a game tried to brand science, and for the kids who were good at it, we offered them a fellowship to college? You wouldn't be offended by that. So if you think that you have to have an Army, and then probably you're not offended the Army recruits that way. I wished we didn't have to have armies, and as I say, I am bothered by a lack of transparency. I'd like it to say right on there. But I think the real issue is it's a political issue of whether you object to people going into the Army.